Hello students, I again welcome you all to my sixth and last lecture on the lesson Magh Bihu or Maghor Dumahi by Dr. Prafulla Datta Goswami from the textbook, English textbook Vistas. Okay, so in today's class, we are going to discuss the last two paragraphs of the lesson. Then after that, I'm going to give you the 2 marks questions. There will be 3 or 4 2 marks questions from the last two paragraphs. And then finally, I'm going to discuss the long questions from the poem. Sorry, from the lesson. Okay, so in my previous class, we discussed first of all how the Kosaris celebrate their Magh Bihu. There, the author said that Kosaris, one of the most numerous tribe of Assam, also celebrate Magh Bihu with some differences. That means there are some similarities between the celebration of Magh Bihu of the Kosaris and the other Assamese people, and there are some differences too. The first one is that the Kosaris, like other Assamese people, tie cord around the fruit-bearing trees. Then they offer rice to the flying, to the sinking, and to the moving animals. And after that, what they do on the day of Dumahi, they mix cow dung with water and they put a mark with that water around the granary. And finally, the author says that on the seventh day of Magh Bihu, that means on sixth Magh, what the Kosaris do, the Kosaris, they first of all clean their utensils, and after that they offer fowl to their chief god Batho. And who is Batho? I explained in my previous class in details. And after that they go out carol singing and collect eatables. And that tradition of going out singing carol from one household to another household and to collect eatable is known as magon or begging. Then another significant thing is that the Kosaris, they believe that it is the right, it is the hereditary right of the cowherd to build the Bhelaghar, in their pronunciation Bilagur, and to put fire to the Velaghar. And while putting fire to the Velaghar, the cowherds, they chant prayer for the glory of their village. Then finally we discussed about what? About different sports events organized in the Magh Bihu. There the author says that different sports events like wrestling, racing, jumping, then buffalo fighting, egg fighting are organized during the Magh Bihu. And then the author said that in the ancient time, people also organize martial games like sword playing or sword playing and javelin throwing, etc., etc. And why they are engaged in those martial games in ancient time? Because they think that they have to protect their land from the aggressor. And that is why by organizing themselves, by organizing those martial games, they prepare themselves as warriors to protect their land. Okay, so these are the things that we discussed in our previous class. And in today's class, in the last two paragraphs of the lesson, there the author refers to another Bihu that is celebrated in Assam and that is of less significance. And that Bihu is Kati Bihu. Now let us come to these two paragraphs. Okay. Here in paragraph number 11, the author here says that I have ignored another Bihu, Kati Bihu, held in autumn as a festival of little significance. So the author says that he has ignored one Bihu, that is Kati Bihu. And Kati Bihu is held in the autumn season. So remember, Bohag Bihu is held in the spring season. Then Kati Bihu is held in the autumn season and Magh Bihu is held in the winter season. So it is held in autumn season and it has less or little importance. Why Kati Bihu has little importance? The author explains it in the next part. It has no public significance. In the family yard, a light is put at the foot of the Tulsi plant, and women and children sing in this manner. Tulsi, O Mother Tulsi, you are Govinda's favorite. Which way has Krishna gone? Mother, tell us quickly. So the author says that Kati Bihu has less significance. It has little significance or importance. Why? Because it has less public significance. It has no public significance. That means we don't celebrate Kati Bihu as a society. Individually, in our household, we celebrate Kati Bihu. That is why the author says that in the family yard, what we do generally in the family yard of all the Assamese people, particularly in the rural areas, we have Tulsi plants because we believe that Tulsi plants has some medicinal qualities and it can purify the air. That is why Assamese people, not only actually Assamese people, Indian people, rather I should say, they plant Tulsi in their yard. And what we do there, we put a light at the foot of the Tulsi plant. And in the evening time, women and the children, they sit near the Tulsi plant and they sing a prayer. What is the prayer? Tulsi, O Mother Tulsi, you are Govinda's favorite. Here Govinda means Lord Krishna. Which way has Krishna gone? Mother, tell us quickly. So this is the prayer that the women and the children chant by sitting after putting a light at the foot of the Tulsi plant, sitting around the Tulsi plant. The plant is considered symbolic of Brinda, one of the devotees of Krishna, and Tulsi plant has been is a symbol of Brinda. And who was Brinda? Brinda was a devotee of Lord Krishna. And here in the slide I have explained that according to Hindu scripture, the Tulsi plant was a woman named Brinda. She was an incarnation. Incarnation means avatar. She was an avatar or incarnation of goddess Lakshmi. She was married to the Asura king Jalandhar, who due to her piety and devotion to Vishnu or Krishna became invincible. Okay, so Brinda was a devotee of Lord Krishna according to Hindu scripture or according to Hindu mythology. And Tulsi is actually symbol of that goddess Brinda. And so the Indian people, they worship Tulsi. Not only the Assamese people, even in other states of our country also, people worship Brinda because people worship Tulsi because Tulsi is the symbol of goddess Brinda. And actually Brinda is what? Is an avatar or an incarnation of goddess Lakshmi, and she was a devotee of Lord Krishna, although she married the Asura king Jalandhar, but as she was very devoted to Lord Krishna, that is why she became invincible. I think it is clear to all of you. So in this paragraph, we have come to know that Kati Bihu has little significance, little importance because we don't celebrate Kati Bihu as a society, we celebrate it in our own household individually. Okay, so that is why it has less importance. Now let us come to the last paragraph. Here the author refers to the rituals, the customs that we follow during the Kati Bihu. Another aspect of Kati Bihu is that the plowman means farmer, does certain things for the protection of his crop. So in Kati Bihu, what happened? The farmer, they perform some rituals, certain activities in order to protect the crop from the পেষ্ট যে কাতি বিহুত কি কৰা হয় কাতি বিহুত তোমাৰ খেতিয়কে কিছুমান কাম কৰে আৰু সেই কামবোৰ কিহৰ কাৰণে কৰে তেওঁৰ শস্যখিনি যাতে পোক পৰুৱাই আহি অনিষ্ট নকৰে তাৰ কাৰণে কিছুমান তেওঁ ৰিচুৱেল বা পৰম্পৰা পালন কৰে He plants a small bamboo in the field and lights an earthen lamp at its foot. And first of all, what the farmer do? He plants a small piece of bamboo in the crop field and then puts a light and earthen lamp at its foot. So, বাঁহ এটা দিয়ে তাত এটা মাটিৰ চাকি এটা দিয়ে. Why actually that act has been performed? Because when they lit that light, then the pests are attracted towards the light and the pest will come to the light and they will die there. Okay, so by performing that act, the plowman or the farmer actually want to protect his crop. He may also whirl means to rotate a piece of bamboo and chant certain mantras to protect the maturing paddy from the pest. Then another activity has been performed during the Kati Bihu. Okay, that is the plowman. What the plowman do? He used to take a piece of bamboo and he used to rotate the bamboo swiftly in the air and it produces a sound. And he believes that by doing that, he will be able to protect the pest. It is believed that as it produces a sound, it will make the pest afraid and they will fly from there. So, this is another activity the plowman perform. বস্তুটো বুজি পাইছা খেতিয়কজনে কি কৰে খেতিয়কজনে বাঁহৰ লাঠি এডাল লয় কেঁচা বাঁহৰ আৰু সেইডাল খুব জোৰত বতাহত ঘূৰাবলৈ লয় আৰু বতাহত যেতিয়া বাঁহৰ লাঠিডাল ঘূৰাই তেতিয়া তাত এটা শব্দ হয় আৰু তেওঁলোকে ভাবে যে এই শব্দটো শুনি পোক পৰুৱাবোৰ যিবোৰে ধান খাবলৈ আহে সেই ধান খাবলৈ অহা পোক পৰুৱাবোৰ আঁতৰি যাব আৰু সেইকাৰণে তেওঁলোকে এই কামটো পাৰফৰ্ম কৰে Some persons light the Akash Banti or the sky lamp hanging from a tall bamboo. And I think all of you know about this, that we light Akash Banti in Kati Bihu. The farmers used to do that. That means they used to plant a tall bamboo in the field, in the crop field. And there at the top of the bamboo stick, they used to hang a earthen lamp there. Hang an earthen lamp and this is called Akash Banti or sky lamp. The Kosaris put lamps at the foot of the Siju cactus. So, the Kosaris do? The Kosaris put a lamp at the foot of the Siju cactus and symbol of their chief god Bathu in the garden, at the granary and in the field. And what the Kosaris do, again there is a difference. Observe this difference. That the other Assamese people, they put earthen lamp at the foot of what? At the foot of Tulsi plant. But what the Kosaris do, the Kosaris put that earthen lamp at the foot of Siju cactus. Because for the Kosaris, Siju cactus is the symbol of their god Bathu. As Tulsi is the symbol of the goddess Brinda, similarly for the Kosaris, Siju cactus is the symbol of their chief god Bathu. And they used to plant Siju cactus in their yard as well as in the granary and in the field. And they used to put that earthen lamp at the foot of the Siju cactus. Kati Bihu cannot be called a festival as such. And finally, the author concludes the essay by saying that Kati Bihu cannot be regarded as a festival. Why Kati Bihu cannot be regarded as a festival? I already explained it. Because it has less social importance. Because we don't celebrate Kati Bihu as a society. Magh Bihu, we celebrate it as a society. On the evening of Uruka, the people of a locality, they gather in a particular place for the Uruka feasting. Again, next day morning, all the people gather in the Velaghors and near the Mezi to set fire to the Mezi. Then they sit together for Nam Prasanga. That means as a society, we perform Magh Bihu. Similarly, Bohag Bihu also, we celebrate as a society. The young people they gather together. Then what they do, they go from one household to another household, and they perform husori there. Okay, so that means what? That means those are social festivals. But Kati Bihu is not a social festival, because as a society we never celebrate Kati Bihu. Okay, Kati Bihu we celebrate as an individual in our own household. Okay, so that is why the author says that Kati Bihu actually cannot be regarded as a festival. But although the author says that it cannot be regarded as a festival, but we celebrate Kati Bihu as one of the festival of Assam. Okay, so in this way, in the entire lesson, in a nutshell, in this short essay, we are able to get a comprehensive view about the celebrations associated with Magh Bihu. And not only that, we have also come to know about how the Kosaris, the major tribe of Assam, celebrate Magh Bihu. And finally, we have also come to know very briefly about the rituals that we follow in Kati Bihu. Okay, so that is why in this lesson we have come across, or we have come to know about two Bihus of Assam. Okay, I think all these things are clear to all of you. Okay, but still, if you have any doubt, feel free to contact me. But let us come to the questions. Okay. So first of all, let me give you the questions from the last two paragraphs of the lesson, 2 marks questions. First one is, how is Kati Bihu celebrated in Assam? So here you have to write that Kati Bihu is held in the autumn season and it has no public significance. In the family yard, we put a light at the foot of the tulsi plant in the evening. Then the women and the children, they used to sing a prayer that Tulsi, O Mother Tulsi, you are Govinda's favorite, which way has Krishna gone? Mother, tell us quickly. And on the other hand, the plowmen perform certain activities in the Kati Bihu. First of all, the plowmen put bamboo stick, small bamboo in the field and light an earthen lamp there. And also sometimes Akash Bantis are also hang in the sky, and also the farmer used to whirl or to rotate a piece of bamboo and chant certain mantras. So in this way we celebrate Kati Bihu. Then how does Kosaris celebrate Kati Bihu? The answer is very easy. The Kosaris also celebrate Kati Bihu, but in a different way. What they do, instead of putting a lamp or light at the foot of Tulsi, the Kosaris put a light at the foot of Siju cactus, which is the symbol of their Shiv god Batho. And then they also put light or earthen lamp in the granary in the field also. Okay. Then number 3 is, why does the author consider Kati Bihu as a festival of little significance? You know the answer, I explained it, that the author considered Kati Bihu as a festival of little significance because it has no social importance. Because we don't celebrate Kati Bihu, Assamese people don't celebrate Kati Bihu as a social festival. We celebrate it in our own household. Okay, we celebrate it individually. So that is why it has little significance, and therefore the author says that Kati Bihu cannot be called a festival at all. Okay, so these things are clear to all of you. So these are the 2 marks questions. Now let us come to the long questions for today. There are 3 long questions from the lesson, and as you all know that from this textbook, long questions will come for 7 marks. And the first one is that give an account of the celebrations associated with Uruka. Then you have to write that, first of all, you have to write about Magh Bihu, because as you know that you have to write the answer for 7 marks. So that is why you have to write that Magh Bihu is a major festival of Assam, and it is, according to the author, Magh Bihu is characteristic of Lower Assam. And in Lower Assam, instead of calling it as Bihu, the people people call it as Maghor Dumahi or Maghor Damhi. And then the author says that although a fire ceremony is closely associated with Magh Bihu, but more significant is Uruka, the Bihu Eve. And you have to write that on the day of Uruka, the women folk, they are engaged in preparing different edibles like sira, pitha, laru, curd, etc. On the other hand, the tribal women, they prepare rice beer. Similarly, the men folk, they try to get some fish and if possible meat for the Uruka feasting. On the other hand, uh, the young people, they in the field, what they do, they make or they construct bhela ghors and mezis, and the temple like structures, and they construct those bhela ghors and mezis with dry bamboo leaves, then dried banana leaves, then green bamboo and hay. And the temple-like structures are known as mezi, and hut-like structures are known as velaghor. And then you have to write that the cowherds, they used to spend night in the velaghor, and they used to get their vegetable by stealing them from the villager's garden, and sometimes the eatables are given to them by the villagers. Then as you have to write the answer for 7 marks, that is why I think it is better for you to write about the food items that are prepared by the women on the day of Uruka. Then you have to write that as it was earlier mentioned, that the women folk are engaged in preparing different food items for Uruka. What happened? They prepare different edibles like tekeli pitha, that is the salted rice powder steamed on the mouth of a small pizza or even a ketli. It is like South Indian idli. Then on the other hand, they prepare sunga pitha, that is moist rice powder put in green bamboo tube and roasted in fire. Then in Upper Assam, people prepare sunga saul, that is the sticky bora rice steamed in a bamboo tube. So in this way, different edibles are prepared on the day of Uruka, because I included these things as this question will come for 7 marks. Then the next question is, give an account of various food items prepared and eaten during Magh Bihu. And this question may come in another way also. Food is an integral part of Magh Bihu. Describe the importance of food in relation to the festivity of Magh Bihu. So here you have to write that Magh Bihu is also known as festival of feasting, because as it is the post-harvest festival, that is why the granaries of the farmers are filled with food items, and that is why different food items are prepared for Magh Bihu. First of all, for Magh Bihu, what happened? The people prepare a special preparation that is called Mah Korai. Then you have to write what is Mah Korai. After that, you have to write about tekeli pitha, then write about sunga pitha, then write about sunga sao. Okay. Then you have to write about the food that we consume on the day of Dumahi, that we don't used to have lunch on the day of Dumahi or Magh Bihu. Instead of that, we used to eat sira and curd and pitha. Then in the evening, we used to what? Eat rice, sometimes new rice, then curry of black gram and fried yam. And then what we do next day morning, we used to eat what? We used to eat the leftover rice soaked in water. So that is called poita bhat. And then also you have to write that the tribal people, okay, the tribal people, they also prepare rice beer for the Magh Bihu. Okay, so these are the things that you have to write for the answer of this question. I think it is clear to all of you. Now let us come to the last one. Although the Kosaris, the most numerous tribe of Assam, have similar custom like the Magh Bihu, they differ in certain aspects. Describe the manner in which the Kosaris celebrate their festival during the time of Magh Bihu. Okay, so here you have to write about how the Kosaris celebrate Magh Bihu and what are the similarities and dissimilarities. First of all, write the similarity. The first similarity is that, like the other Assamese people, they also tie cord around the fruit-bearing trees. Secondly, write about the similarity that other Assamese people offer rice to the dogs. But the Kosaris not only offer rice to the dogs, they offer rice to the flying, that means the birds, sinking, that means the fishes, and also moving, that means the dogs and the pigs. After that, you have to write that on the day of Dumahi, that means on the day of Magh Bihu, they put a mark around the granary with water mixed with what? Mixed with cow dung. Then on the 7th day of Magh Bihu, that means on 6th Magh, what the Kosaris do, first of all, they clean their utensil. After that, they offer fowl to their chief god, Batho. And then they go out carol singing. And they collect eatable. And the tradition of going out in carol singing from one household to another household and collecting eatable is known as magon or begging. Okay. Then you have to write about the burning of construction and burning of velaghars. Okay. So there you have to write that the Kosaris believe that it is the right or prerogative of the cowherd to construct the velaghars as well as to set fire to the velaghars. Then you have to write that early in the morning, on the day of Bihu, early in the morning, at the break of the dawn, the chief cowherd, the leader of the cowherd, used to set fire to the velaghar by chanting a prayer for the glory of their village. And he is also accompanied by the other cowherds. And in their prayer, they first of all pray for the glory of their village. After that, they pray that disease should not visit their village. Then they pray that their village should be filled with paddy and rices. And then they pray that their cattle should be as big as a rhinoceros or as an elephant. And finally, they pray that the person who had beaten their cattle, even if their cattle hadn't eaten, the paddy of that person should suffer long. So in this way, they pray and then they set fire to the velaghar. So in this way, you have to write the answer of this question. So I have explained the answers of all the long questions carrying 7 marks and also 2 marks questions. And if you have any doubt regarding these questions, I'll be available for next 15 minutes in WhatsApp. If you have any doubt, please contact me. You may also call me, and then I shall again explain the things where you have doubt. I shall clear your doubts. Okay. So thank you and have a nice day, and I'm going to meet you again with a new topic. Okay. So bye for today.